Hi guys, and welcome to Shop. In this video series I'm going to be taking you through my process of making 4 hunting knives. The impetus for the build is that I have 4 friends back in Idaho who all had very successful elk hunting trips. They caught monster elks and posted pictures on Facebook, and I got a little bit nostalgic for them. And so since I haven't been able to see them for about a year and a half, I figured it'd be fun to make them each a hunting knife. Ideally, I'll get these knives made and out before the hunting season is over. Otherwise, I'll have to use them for next year. But so, in this series, I'm going to be taking you through pretty much the step-by-step process of making this guy. It's a drop point hunter, pretty standard design. The tip is fairly upswept, so you can still use it for skinning. The swedge won't be sharpened. It's more there for aesthetics and just ease of cutting. We'll have stainless steel bolsters, top and bottom. The bottom one I would like to get on there for if you want a hammer or something like that. It protects any wood or insert. The inserts will be dovetailed into the bolsters, and I have actually one elk antler horn that I'd like to get on one of these handles. The horn is pretty porous and it's very wide, so I'm not sure if the bony walls that are left are thick enough to actually support the shaping of this handle, but ideally we'll get one built with a elk antler stick or elk antler horn. The rest will be made out of nice hardwoods, and they'll be pinned in and whatnot. So my goal for this series obviously is to take you along. I'm going to do my best to get every step filmed and a little bit of commentary in between. So let's start with, I've already got these traced out onto some steel. Next step is pulling out the angle grinder and getting them cut out.
So the truth of the matter is that this part of the knife making process is not terribly difficult. If you can draw your lines and cut to your lines and keep your edges square, you're pretty much done. So I completely understand that this part of the video may not be very exciting, and if you wanted to skip ahead, then here are your time markers. At 3 minutes and 8 seconds, I move on to grinding the edges with the 1x30 and the disc sander, and then at 4:42 we talk about the Dremel. And then at 6:18, move on to hand filing, along with some of my general thoughts about the knife making process and how somebody should approach the finishing of a knife. So if you are comfortable with all of that, then you're pretty much done, and you can move on to part 2. Otherwise, you can skip ahead or watch the whole thing.
Alright, so everything's cut out, roughly. And so, next step, we need to clean up the edges, clean up the profile. Most of this we can do on the 1x30 and its disc grinder. But then we'll have to pull out the Dremel for some of this bits, like in the choil and whatnot. And then for the sharpening notch, we'll pull out the hand file and get that ground down on the vise. So The only thing that I can think of might be worth mentioning here when using the Dremel to clean up these curves, especially the choils and these smaller arcs that you can't get into with the grinder or whatnot, is that, number one, you don't want to hesitate too much at the bottom of any of these places. You create these divots, and they become really difficult to get out. Number two is finding square, finding level with the Dremel is kind of difficult. And so one thing that you can do is when you have these rises, like at the edge of the finger guard here, look straight down at it and make sure that you don't see any cant in one side or the other to the width of this point here. Same thing when you're doing the edge side. You can see, or maybe you can't, I don't know, that there is a little bit of a cant to this tip. The right side here is farther down than the left. And so what that means is that this isn't flat, it's just canted just a little bit down to the side. And I'm going to fix that later. But so you can do that, use that same trick with the Dremel when you're looking down, sighting down these ridges. So don't hesitate and try to find level. Other than that, using the Dremel is super easy. And it cleans up really quickly. Alright, so that is smooth and level. Next step is to file in the sharpening notch. And I'm going to clean up a little bit of this knife edge bevel that I couldn't get with the disc stand. So these, all files cut, as far as I know, in one direction. So you don't want to cut or put pressure on the pull stroke. You can feel your file and you'll feel that it's more aggressive in one direction than the other. And so that's your cutting direction. So as I pull back, I'm lifting. I find these frustrating to use because it's easy to cant one direction or the other and you end up creating an uneven notch. So be real careful to keep this level. Same thing, it's easy to round out these tips and whatnot. So what I'm doing is I'm sighting down again and making sure that the notch that I'm creating is square, just like you did with the Dremel. Once I start to get close, really lighten up that pressure. Discerning collectors always look for symmetry as well as squareness and things like that, and so you can look at this and say, well, yeah, that's good enough. But even if it's a fraction of a millimeter off, your eye will catch that. And so don't get in the habit of saying like, yeah, I'm tired of filing. It's good enough. Because if you go to sell the knife, it won't be good enough. Not to that one person that you really want to be happy with your knife. So I'm just creating some shadows and whatnot, making sure that there's no glare to block my view of how this thing looks. And then checking from the sides. Everything looks pretty good. I'm very happy with that. Now I've got to clean up the ridge here of the guard. So I'll be honest with you. I know I said never to pull on these things. This is a needle file from Harbor Freight. It cost about, well, individually this probably cost about 10 cents. I think the whole set cost $3 or something like that. They're super cheap. I have 1,000 of them. And so I kind of just use this as an abrasive. I don't pay much attention to it. It works fine. They do get dull, but they still seem to do their trick. It makes it easier for me because I can maintain a constant pressure on there. I don't lose contact with the metal. So if you have something you're trying to protect, like I really like these needle files, I will file with this in only one direction. I don't want to ruin the grit, the cutting edges. These, not so much. I don't care about them. If they get dull to the point where they're frustrating, I will go buy another one. Which is a terrible ethos. I really shouldn't, you know, not protect my tools because they're cheap. But at a certain point, I'm paying for ease of use, I suppose. So there's another fact to consider when you're shaping the handle. Anything that's going to be attached to wood or metal or whatever will get re-ground, because you will be shaping your handle material to your handle, and at some point you're going to start to flush up the actual metal with the material, and so it will get slightly reshaped or what have you. So I'm not super particular at this point with how smooth this is. I want the ridges to be out. I don't want it to be bumpy, but I don't worry too much about the finish. This little guy, however, will not be covered up or attached to material, so I would like it to be pretty much done when I'm done. It will need to be refinished a little bit when it comes back from heat treat, because it'll have the bluing on it. But it will not be reshaped at all. It'll just be resanded. So I'm using my fingers as a block here so I don't slide down. I kind of can rest it like a guide. That helps real well. So I have to spend a little bit more time on this particular one because there's a low spot here that I'm trying to grind down to. This shouldn't take this long on the other ones, as long as I was more careful with the grinder on those. There she is. That's a lot more work than it should have been, really. But it's not hard work, just tedious, and it's worth it. That's why I call or use the title Strong Links Knives. This being square is not going to make or break your knife. But if you care about that, then you care about the big things. And so I think that's why I like the moniker, that Strong Links. There are no weak links. There should be no weak links in the knife, to the best of your ability. And so if you care about all portions, not just the blade, does it look pretty, does the handle fit, but symmetry and balance and weight and centeredness, I mean, all that kind of stuff, then you're going to have a knife that not only functions, but you're proud of, that your customers or friends will be proud of, want to hold on for years as an heirloom. They'll take it out hunting with them and take care of it because they recognize, you know, that it's something special, that something a lot went into it. And because of that, they'll pass it on to their kids. They'll have it with them. They'll use it more often, they'll use it more carefully, and they'll have more stories to tell about it. Strong links, no weak links. Alright, a little more Dremeling through here, and then we should be approaching done. light strokes. There's more surface area on the blade to see if I'm scratching even. Looks like I am still square. It looks pretty good. Alright. This knife is officially profiled. Feels pretty good. A little edgy. Probably needs a handle. There's the balance. Right at the choil. We're going to have to put quite a few holes in here to keep the balance even. Once you get a handle on there, obviously, especially with bolsters, especially that tail bolster, this is going to want to get real handle heavy. We're going to be cutting off a lot of material in here. So we'll do some holes in the handle, try to lighten things up. Alright, 4 more to go.